Hey everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I am your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 83 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I could not be more excited to continue sharing with you all personal finance topics that I think can be really useful for you in your personal financial life. Today, we're going to be talking about what you shouldn't talk about at the Thanksgiving table tomorrow. And that thing, unfortunately, for us who love to talk about it, is money. That is one of the things that you should not be talking about. We all know those people who like to bring up the uncomfortable things at the Thanksgiving table. Unfortunately, I can be that guy. I lack a filter at times. I like to say what I think and put it out there. But that can be divisive. That can be something that other people aren't ready for and other people aren't going to react favorably to. So throughout the course of today's video, we're going to talk about why we don't necessarily want to dive too deep into our financial lives in a holiday setting, in a setting where family members are coming together. Maybe you haven't seen somebody in a while, and it can just make things a little uncomfortable and a little awkward. So we're going to try to mitigate that by talking about why you should not talk about money at the Thanksgiving table. Before we get started though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave any feedback in the comments down below as we move forward in this episode. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, then make sure that you subscribe there and leave me a review. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and I'm on all the major social media platforms. And then if you want to work one-on-one with me, if you want somebody to help you get your financial life on track, if you want to start pushing towards financial freedom and pushing towards a life that is worth living financially, then sign up for a financial coaching session today. Go to my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab, and you can pick the financial coaching session type that would work best for you. So you know the rules. Chew with your mouth closed, right? Keep your elbows off the table. Don't talk while you're eating, and do not bring up the topics of politics, religion, or money at the Thanksgiving table. Now, or at any family gathering for that matter, right? Or any gathering of friends for that matter. Those are the unwritten rules of these large gatherings of people that maybe you don't see every day and talk to every day. Now, we know that it is all too easy to break these rules. It is easy to sit there and go, well, I'm just going to, talk a little bit about, the financial plan I'm working on, and, maybe people will be interested in that. Maybe not so fast. Or maybe I'm going to start talking about buying Christmas presents because, Black Friday is on, this Friday. So maybe we'll talk about Black Friday and what we're going to buy and think. Maybe not so fast. So we're going to jump into some of these things, some of these topics that you should keep away from that are, related to money when it comes to sitting at the Thanksgiving table and having these conversations with others. We just don't want people to be uncomfortable. You don't want to be uncomfortable at the Thanksgiving table. It needs to be a place of happiness and laughter and fun and catching up with people you haven't seen in a while. And it's really hard to do that when there's this awkwardness in the air and there's this tension in the air because people don't agree or people are talking about things that are going to divide them. We want to be able to come together for these meals and maybe save it for a later phone call as to what you think about somebody's financial plan. But let's jump right into these things that maybe we should bite our tongues on this Thanksgiving. So the first one that maybe we should bite our tongues on is Christmas purchases. And what do I mean? Why is this a big deal? Well, Christmas is right around the corner. It is. We're really getting into peak Christmas buying times, Christmas present purchasing times, right? And Black Friday's this Friday, and all of these things, right? So then why not talk about Christmas purchases? Well, let's just think about it for a second. You may be able to afford something, or you may not, right? But let's just say you may be able to afford something that somebody in your family cannot afford. You may be able to do something for your child for Christmas, or give your child something for Christmas that somebody in your family cannot do for their own children. And this is going to maybe make them a bit uncomfortable. I mean, this is a perfect example. Maybe your kid and their kid both want a PS5 for Christmas. That's brand new. It's out. They're flying off the shelves. Maybe they both want a PS5. Well, let's say you can afford to buy your kid a PS5 and plan to do so, but they cannot, and they do not plan to do so. Let's think about all the issues that this could bring up. Well, one, if you say, I think I might buy, little Johnny a PS5 for Christmas. Well, that's immediately going to make the other individual feel bad, right? Because they're like, well, I know my kid wants one too, but I just can't do it. That's going to make them feel bad about their ability to get their kids things that they want. And it might even push them to the point of making a stupid financial decision and purchasing it for them on credit or doing it anyway. And we don't want to do that to other people. We don't want to put other people in that keeping up with the Joneses mentality. We don't want to tempt other people into doing that. And we also don't want to just create that dissension between you and them, and you're able to do that and I'm not, and that makes me jealous or envious of your position. We don't want people to feel that way towards us, so we want to keep that conversation out. And then let's just say, on the back end of this, if their child were to hear that somebody was going to buy a PS5 for their child, then they're going to be like, oh, Dad, I want one. Can I, you're going to get me one too, right? If they can get one, I can get one, right? And it can make for a disappointed child as well, which nobody wants. So maybe, staying away from talking about Christmas purchases would be a pretty good idea. The only way that this would be okay, if it's something that everybody was okay with, it wasn't a large item, it was something pretty, modest, something that you're just talking about doing, or maybe you're all talking about going Black Friday shopping together on Friday. That's fine too. But let's try to keep the bigger, more substantial things out of the conversation, because it is just going to stir up dissension, stir up jealousy, stir up envy within your gathering. And that's not what you want. We want joy, we want happiness, we want gratefulness and contentment at this Thanksgiving meal. And then let's not talk, if you are in a tough financial place, you're having financial troubles, maybe you are having trouble finding a job, you're having trouble. Let's not bring the negativity into the holiday gathering. Let's not bring that negativity to the table. Let's not talk about directly, the fact that you're out of a job, or the fact that you don't have much income coming in right now, or your job doesn't pay enough, to pay for all the things that you want it to pay for, or things like that. There are individuals who undoubtedly, year after year, or family gathering after family gathering, will continue to gripe and complain about their particular situation. Now, as somebody who may be financially successful, or may have themselves on a good track financially, maybe you can head this off. Maybe you can head off this complaining, or head off this awkward conversation at the table by an act of kindness or an act of generosity. Maybe, if your cousin is talking about their job doesn't pay very much, or they're really struggling to find a job, and they're all this type of stuff, and you have a good job with a good company. Maybe you can say, hey, well, there's this opening. Maybe I'll push your resume for you and try to help you get a better job. And maybe that is just the little bit of encouragement they need to not bring that up in front of the whole family, or not just kind of be a Debbie Downer when it comes to Thanksgiving. I'm not saying you shouldn't have real conversations at Thanksgiving. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, for everybody's comfort level, for everybody to be on the same page, and to feel good about what's going on at that dinner table, or at that gathering, then you probably want to stay away from some of the things that are really going to drag the group down. And this can be a conversation that really does. So we don't want to get into it. And maybe you can head it off with something like the suggestion that I just gave. Now, this particular one that I'm about to bring up, I've never seen personally, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't gone on behind the scenes. But I don't want anybody to be making somebody else feel uncomfortable at these holiday gatherings. So I'm going to bring it up. Let's not ask for personal loans at a holiday gathering. Let's not, first of all, have to put somebody in the position to decide if they want to loan you money or not if you're in a tough financial situation. And obviously, you don't want to be put in a situation where you have to decide if you want to loan your cousin Eddie some money or not, or something like that. You don't want to be in that place. And so, lending money to family, first and foremost, is toxic, right? You're creating this relationship within your family that is slave master. And I'm not just making that up. That is biblical in the fact that, if you are a slave, you are in debt. You are indebted, right? Being in debt is the same as being enslaved to your lender. And so it creates a slave master relationship. And in doing this, what ends up happening is you have this feeling of inadequacy by the individual who took out the loan. And you have this feeling of entitlement by the individual who gave the loan. So you end up in this weird place and this weird relational place until the money is paid back. And even then, there can be residual effects of that relationship having occurred in the first place. Now, there are ways that you can go about mitigating this and keeping this from occurring. First and foremost, if somebody needs money, they need money, they're probably going to bring it up, and you want to curb that, right? Then if you're in a good financial situation, then giving them a gift of money may be the way to go. Maybe it's the way to go to gift them something, to provide them with some means to help them out moving forward. Maybe you get them a gift card to somewhere and tell them to buy themselves some things that they need or things that they want or whatever it may be. But you help them out as a gift. One of the worst ideas as far as a family gathering or just as far as a family relationship is loans and being indebted to one another, that relationship we were just talking about. But giving a no strings attached gift can definitely be a fantastic thing. But you have to check yourself first if you're planning to give such a gift, because if you're giving such a gift, then you have no say where that money goes. That is no longer your money once it leaves your hands. So you can't dictate where the money goes. You can't dictate what they decide to do with it. And given that is the fact, you lose a lot of control. But you have to be willing to lose the control in the name of not being uncomfortable with the relationships in your family, not being uncomfortable with the conversations that are going on at your Thanksgiving table, and just altogether making things more peaceful at that gathering. Now, I know both of these last two things have had a lot to do with if you want to head them off, you doing something that is generous for someone else. Now, this is something that you have to do sometimes, not just in a have-to way, but sometimes generosity is the way to head off certain, uncomfortable things. And, you may not be in a place where you can do this. You may not be in a place where you can be generous in these ways. And you may have to, sit there and take the negativity and take the asking for money and things like that. And I mean, if you can't do it, you can't do it. But if you are in a position to help others, then help others. And that's going to make everybody a lot more, grateful on Thanksgiving, a lot more thankful for what they have, and a lot more continuity within a family that can be easily splintered by an individual asking somebody else for money and that person saying no, or that person saying, I don't have money to give you. We don't want splinters within the family because somebody can't help somebody else out. We want as much continuity as possible, and sometimes this is the way to go. Now, let's say you have already loaned somebody money within the family. then maybe this Thanksgiving is the time to walk up to them and write it off. Okay? Maybe this Thanksgiving is the time to walk up to them and go, you know what? You know that money that I loaned you. I don't like this relationship that we have. I don't like this dynamic. Then I would just like to write it off. You don't owe me a dime. There's no ill feelings. You're free of that burden, and so am I. So I don't have to worry about getting paid back or anything like that. And that can kind of free up everybody too, because if you have loaned somebody money, it's very likely, given the new dynamic that you've created, that individual will come to you and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna get you that money. I'm gonna do this," and that creates some awkward tension as well. So just saying that, hey, don't worry about it. Hey, this is no longer a debt that you have to repay. That could be a huge deal. That can go a long way towards mending that relationship that has been splintered and recreating the dynamic of family member and no longer that of lender and borrower. And so this is just a big thing that can go a long way. And again, it's you being generous. It's you trying to make the best of a bad situation. Even if you expected to get that money back, maybe sometimes the best thing you can do is just say, I'm just going to write it off. It's not worth my time. It's not worth the uncomfortable nature of the conversations. I would rather just be done with it. And, maybe that is what that individual needs, and the act of grace that individual needs to see from you in order to move forward in their own lives and do things that will hopefully not lead them back to borrowing money from a family member ever again. Now, also, some things that we don't want to bring up at the table, and things that we don't particularly want to hear at our Thanksgiving table, are business propositions or investment opportunities, or talking about investments in general. We don't want to be doing that at our dinner tables, at our Thanksgiving gatherings. And there are several reasons as to why this is. First of all, nobody wants to hear about your business proposition that you have for people that they can invest in. Nobody wants to hear about how well your investments have done. And that's tough for me, especially if somebody asks. If somebody asks, then I want to talk about it because that's something I am passionate about, right? All of these things are things that I am passionate about talking about. Not that I'm not asking for money or anything like that, but just personal finance in general. Obviously, I'm talking to you about it every day. Therefore, I am passionate about talking about these things. And so in being that way, then I can really get on a soapbox and run. But you kind of have to temper yourselves in that way. But don't bring a business proposition to the table for your family. Don't say, hey, I'm starting this new thing. I could really use some startup cash. Would anybody be interested in investing? Don't do it. Don't do it. Because in a similar way to asking for a loan from somebody else in your family, then having your family as investors is going to have them requiring some return from you. And whether that return is just the money that they gave you, or the money they gave you plus interest, or plus some annualized rate of return, then again, that's going to create a weird dynamic with you and your family. And if somebody is offering you a business proposition, then the best thing you can say, in my opinion, is I'm happy with my investments right now. I think I'm probably going to pass, but thanks, and just kind of move on to the next thing, because there's really no way of heading this one off. You just don't want to talk about these things. Nobody really wants that uncomfortable feeling of thinking that they didn't give somebody or invest in somebody's business proposition that is their family member. People feel far too obligated to do so, and it's not necessary to feel that way, but a lot of people do. And so we don't want to create those awkward situations. And I understand, look, if you are creating your first business and you're really working hard to push towards, you're trying to raise some money and you're trying to, get some people to invest in your business to be able to do what you want to do, which I don't necessarily think is the best idea overall. Maybe you need to build something up by yourself and stop, worrying about other people's money. But if you are trying to do so, try to leave your family out of it. Your family is just just creates weird relationships. And we don't want weird relationships. We want healthy, strong relationships with our family members. And anything that is money related can make things a little awkward, can make things a little weird. And that's the last thing we want. We want things to be healthy. We want things to be, joyful. We want things to be a good existence with your family, and not something that is dragging everybody down and making everybody roll their eyes every time they see you walk through the door, because that does happen. If you are constantly the one that's asking for money, or you're constantly the one looking to get somebody to invest in the next big thing with you, then you're going to be the one that people are going to shy away from at gatherings. You're going to be the one that people want to slowly avoid. And unfortunately, that is the case. But on the other hand, nobody wants that. Everybody's coming together at Thanksgiving to regather, to catch up on the months gone by, the year gone by, however long it's been since you've seen these individuals, they don't want to talk about those types of things, and they definitely don't want to be propositioned by you to invest in things that they know nothing about, and that they would just be taking a flyer on. That just it's not good etiquette, first of all, and then second of all, it's just not a good idea for the dynamic of your family. Now, this last one that I have for you is a little more difficult, and it's probably a little more common in just the span of conversation, and how the things that people talk about within a Thanksgiving meal. But let's say you're on your way to financial freedom. Let's say you're paying off debt. Let's say you're building up an emergency fund, or let's say that you're investing at least 15% of your income. Let's say that you're getting your house paid off, all these types of things. And let's say you and your family are comfortable enough to just chat about certain simple finance things. Maybe you guys are close and you're okay to talk about money in a given way that is healthy and that you feel good about. Yeah, that's great. And hopefully you can do that. But if you're not sure, then lean towards the side of don't talk about it. But let's say that is the case, that you're working your plan in some way. And if you're working the plan, it's really going to be detrimental to somebody else if you hear what they have to say about their own financial life and then go, well, but I heard this guy Dylan say, or, I've read that that's not right, or I've seen that that's dumb, or that's only going to set you back, or all these types of things. Anything that is going to be contrary to what somebody else is doing in their own life is only going to create discomfort, because you're not going to have the time, the wherewithal, or the dynamic at that table to be able to explain that whatever the thing may be in a healthy way. For instance, one thing may be oh yeah, I lease cars because it's cheaper than a car payment, and I get these to drive these new cars, all this type of things. Even though I don't want somebody to lease a car ever, I'm not going to look across the table and go, that's dumb, you should never lease a car. Not going to do it. And why am I not going to do it? Because that's only going to make that other person mad at me. It's not going to make them change their behavior. And this is a tough thing to do, especially if you have a big mouth like I do. That if you hear something that is wrong, not calling it out, not pointing it out, not saying that it is not the right way to do something. It's hard. It's hard not to point those types of things out. And you just need to, though. Biting your tongue on some of these things is really going to help you to make the best of the situations that you're in. And biting your tongue in a lot of cases is going to be the best thing that you can do. Your tongue can deceive you. You can say something that you think is not far too negative, or say something that is not overly demeaning to someone else, and them take it as the worst thing that they've heard from somebody all day. Not what we want. We don't want somebody feeling that way. We don't want to create the awkwardness, and we don't want to create the frustration at the table. So don't rag on somebody else's financial situation. It's just not a good idea. And something you can do, if you can have these healthy conversations about money without being negative about other people's situations, you can be positive about your own, right? If everybody's just talking about what they're doing financially and all these types of things, then maybe somebody's saying, oh, they leased this car at this rate and it was only this payment and all this kind of stuff. Then maybe you don't even address, or definitely you don't even address, but you don't even address them. And maybe you say something like, yeah, maybe you and your spouse are working on getting out of debt, and you may say, yeah, me and Becky are working on getting out of debt, and we've paid off like $30,000 of debt, and we're really working through our plan really good, and we're really happy about where we're at. That could be a very healthy thing to say if you're having these types of conversations at the Thanksgiving table, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But just you just have to keep in mind who's at the table. You have to keep in mind the people that you're talking to. Like I said, if you're really close with everybody there and you've had these types of conversations over time, that's fine. Have the conversations. That's okay. But don't put yourself in the awkward positions. And, if you're dealing with a lot of, distant family members, if you're dealing with a lot of people that you don't see throughout the year and you don't talk to throughout the year and you don't have really close relationships with, then the last thing you want to do with those individuals is go about rocking the boat. The last thing that you want to do with those individuals is to frustrate them. You'd like to just maintain the status quo with them, maintain the peace at the gathering, maintain everybody's happiness, and just make it to where everybody can have a good time and enjoy their Thanksgiving and actually be thankful for what occurred at the meal and not look back and go, whew, that got weird, or whew, that got awkward, because it definitely can, and it can get that way in a hurry. So there's all these things that we don't want to talk about, but let's just remember why we're gathering. Let's remember why Thanksgiving is here. Let's remember why we are meeting for this holiday, and talk about the things that you're thankful for. Talk about the things that you are, really enjoying in life right now, and things that are, that you're grateful for in your own life, and that can really change the conversation from things that can turn negative to things that are really only positive as you talk at the table. And so we're just trying to keep everyone in good spirits and everyone in each other's good graces. So hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to my channel down below. Like this video. Leave me any feedback in the comments if you have not already. That would be much appreciated. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, make sure that you subscribe there and leave me a review on one of those platforms, whichever one you are listening on. I'm really, really grateful for those reviews that you guys leave. Thank you for that. And then go and follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan. It's a really good follow, really good supplementary materials to all of the videos that I put out day by day. So that will help you out quite a bit. And then if you want to work one-on-one with me, if you want to create this relationship and start pushing towards your own financial goals with some help, then go sign up for a financial coaching session on my website, www.mnowithdylan.com. Click on the Work with Dylan tab and pick the financial coaching session type that would work best for you, and we can start working your way into financial freedom over the long term together. So tune in tomorrow, Thanksgiving, right? So before you have one of these big Thanksgiving gatherings, then tune in tomorrow and check out. I'm going to just start digging into things that I am actually thankful for, things that I am thankful for in my own life in tomorrow's video. So that'd be a great one for you to check out. And you can just get a good idea of where my head's at and how I think about my personal life and money as a whole. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.